This is the special coverage on the APC presidential primaries currently holding at the Eagle Square here in the capital city in Abuja. I am Ayuba Ilya, and I have in the studio as well Emmanuel Njoku, program manager, code, and he's joining us to also give perspectives to the ongoing primaries. You're welcome. We also have Precious Ekima, a member of the All Progressives Congress, in the studio. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, the D-Day is finally here, isn't it? The hour has come for the All Progressives Congress to get to, pick the flag bearer of the party, except that it's coming with a lot of dilly-dallying. Initially, we were told 6th of June. And then only for the program or schedule of events to have dated 7th of June. One is wondering, what's all the dilly-dallying all about? Let me start with Emmanuel.
Yeah, so for me, I'm not surprised. I was actually expecting this. I knew it was not going to be a walk in the park. Looking at the persons that have indicated interest to become the president of the country, also looking at the fact that this is a ruling party, also looking at the point recently when the PDP did their own primaries and the person that emerged as the candidate of the PDP, all of these factors comes into play into what is happening. And this is an election. This is a presidential election we're talking about here. I mean, it was never going to be a walk in the park. It's expected. In my place, I come from Southeast. They call an election in Igbo language, it's called Ndorondoro Ochichi. I mean, it's an election. So all of this
In Hausa, they call it Jani Jaka.
Oh, meaning, does it mean the same thing? Is it the same
Perhaps,
thing?
I'm not sure, though.
So it's expected. All what we're seeing is expected, but we're only hoping that by the end of today, all of this whole tension will come to an end and we'll probably have a candidate for APC.
Well, Mr. Precious, the tension is making people to think: is this the end of APC? Lots of people have said, well, either ways, whichever way the pendulum swings, the APC is not going to escape the doomsday, an implosion.
No, I disagree. They won't have an implosion. You find there is like I said yesterday, the Electoral Act has put in some safe valves that the level of audacity, the level of impunity cannot be exercised. All what they're doing is appealing and appealing and appealing. We have a scenario where somebody's words is not an order, but an appeal. Because the Electoral Act has said that for a consensus, all the candidates need to agree. Even if one candidate refuses, then they need to go to the elections. So I don't think that...
Is that why the president is meeting with the governor of Kogi State, Yahya Bello?
Yeah, because
I mean, apparently yesterday from the viral video we saw, he wasn't looking like a happy man. He didn't agree. He have even said that he is not agreeing with the position of the northern governors.
Yes, you see, Nigerians will appreciate what the true meaning of the amendment of the Electoral Act is. The amendment of the Electoral Act truly is to protect minority views. And this is a country where big men, money bags, governors, presidents have played God in quotes. You don't go, this will go. You don't go, you will go. And so the Electoral Act amendment was geared towards trying to protect all these strongman politics that they had injected into the system. And so now they are finding it difficult to exercise that authority the way they used to. They can't force it. They had to plead just to be by suasion. And if they can't get into any way, they need to go for the elections.
Yesterday we saw the story that the national chairman of the APC, threw up the name of the Senate leader, Ahmed Lawan, as the endorsed candidate of the party. But it appears that even members of the NWC were not even aware of this arrangement and all of that. What does this suggest, about the handling of these issues? Because it appears that the presidency has a different position. The NWC is divided. So and then the governors also, on the other hand, are also having a different position.
So frankly, what happened yesterday for me was a bit surprising. Looking at the person of the party chairman, his years of experience in administration and in politics, I mean, coming to make such announcements and then for the presidency to turn around and let us say that they are not, that wasn't coming from them. And then the party chairman, knowing also how strong, or let me use the word powerful, the governors are in a political party, coming up to say that without being in line with the governors in the APC, especially the northern governors, it goes to say that the party is sincere, even though he's saying that there is no possible implosion. But for me, I think I see an implosion coming. So all what they are trying to do, because frankly, even with the Electoral Act that has been amended, these people can still go to the polls and still vote. And someone will still emerge anyways without all of these things happening. But I think what they are trying to do is trying to, like you said, appeal to the different fractions, to the different interests to avoid that implosion. But whichever way, this is a presidential election. It goes with interest. People have interest. All the different groups have their different interests. So everybody, it can be a win-win for everybody. At the end of the day, a candidate is going to emerge. At the end of the day, some people are going to feel bad. So they'll keep dropping the names from, we had earlier in the day that they've dropped the names to 5 names, and they brought it back to the president. The president says, go back and take it down to 2 more, trim it down further to 2 more names. And Yahya Bello is not in that list. And like I was telling him just before this show, this is a governor, from what we hear from people close to him, that he has said that nothing would make him. I saw a press conference he did earlier today. People just showed it in the beginning of this year's show, that nothing will make him step down for anybody. Yeah. And this is the same thing we heard from the former Lagos State Governor Ahmed Bola Tinubu. That nothing. So I don't see where this whole thing. Eventually, this whole thing will go to the polls, and there's going to be voting. And at the end of the day,
so I mean, from what it looks like we're expecting about 21 aspirants to be on the ballot. So the consensus that we are seeing here does not necessarily, put some people off the ballot.
What I see is not a consensus. If you look at the Electoral Act, section 84, subsection 5, what they are doing is, so for you to have a consensus based on the Electoral Law 2022, all the 21 or 23 aspirants need to sign to consent to say, okay, we've agreed that you're the one that is going to run. If one person, just one person, and from the look of things, I don't see all of them consenting to say, okay, we're going to let you run. So I don't see consensus happening. What I see is them appealing to the delegates to vote in a particular pattern based on the strength of the governors and the influence of these governors in their states. The governors actually are very powerful in their state structure, their political parties. So what I see is them trying to appeal and get the delegates to vote in a particular pattern that they will have a candidate. But I don't see consensus happening at this time. I don't see that happening.
Mr. Precious, do you see, the last-minute surprises, like we've seen in the case of the PDP, certain persons stepping down for some? Like what we know, only one person so far have stepped down, Abubakar Badaru, and then we have a whole lot of others who have not really said, what they are intending to do.
Well, I'm not too bothered about thinking that there will be an implosion, because I know what triggers implosion. Immediately.
Are we not seeing the signs already?
No. I don't see any sign in it. Because I know that
but you have a chairman that does not agree with even members of his NWC.
You see,
and you have an NWC, a chairman also that is not towing the path of the governors in his party.
Okay, but let me tell you, there is a small paper, very small paper, that you call Electoral Act. Who has put spanners into the arrogance of, in those days, party chairman? Or in those days, presidents or governors who will say, my word is final. And that is why his word is not final. He has attempted to say it, and they said no. The aspirants said no. He knows that the law says you must have all the contestants agree. So he has that problem. The president understands that by the Electoral Act, he cannot force anybody down. So when some people call me to say, Presidency, they should put it to 5-3, where is it going to? Does the president have the powers to order them print 5 ballot papers or print 3? He doesn't have that powers. So, as long as they have not signed that they are no more running, any attempt to remove anybody's ballot face, then the party is opening themselves up for issues of exclusion, and there's no remedy about that. So it is safer for them to have the ballot for everybody, and like as he has said, let the stepping down and compromises dictate the day, and the delegates bring out the answer. But anything to say he has reduced it to 5-3, then it becomes a booby trap.
But I guess that the whole of that is to help guide the decision of the delegates, to narrow down the choices of the delegates, such that it's much more easier to make the choices. And it's boiling back to, or I would say is, boiling down to 2 specific people that stands out here in the southern part of the country, southwest to be precise, the Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the Vice President Osibanjo. Do you think so?
Well, look, all these raging arguments can stand or fail if the Electoral Act is not enforced. Privately, quietly.
You seem to have so much confidence on the Electoral Act.
But he's holding them. If it was before, nobody would be discussing it. They have said he has spoken. When they were doing the convention for the ESCO, when people say they have stepped down, I say, no, go and put it in writing now and bring. So where they're doing, they cannot say it by word of mouth.
So looking at the fact that the Senate President is the chairman of the National Assembly, and it was under him that this Electoral Act was passed, would you say that this is like, shooting oneself on the foot? Because it doesn't look like it's in his favor anymore.
Yeah, of course. So clearly, it's not in his favor because of the oversight they had in that section 84, subsection 8, that excluded all the statutory delegates. So before now, typically this APC convention will probably have over 10,000 delegates, if I'm correct, over 10,000 delegates participating, which will include members of the National Assembly, members of the State Assembly, the governors, the deputy governors, all of those people, which probably may have favored the Senate President. But as it is right now, and so this is where the governors come into play, and this is where the governors become powerful. The governors are the ones that conducted the elections where these delegates were elected in the local governments that are now in Abuja to vote. So whichever we want to look at it, the governors have a lot of influence over these delegates and how these delegates are going to vote. We saw that happen in the PDP presidential primaries. Most of the delegates from the states had bulk votes to one particular candidate based on interest of their governors in the states. So yes, in this case, I don't see how it favors the Senate president who has no major influence over the delegates that came from the states. The delegates from the states are controlled by the state governments.
Let's take a look at what's on our screen right now. We have a breakdown of the national delegates by states and regions, totaling 2,322. In the Northwest, you have a total of 558 delegates, perhaps the highest, like we are seeing. In fact, it's the highest, as a matter of fact. It's then you take a look at the Northeast. And the Northeast has 336 delegates. And then the North Central, 360 delegates. The Southwest, 411. South, 372. And then we also have a total of 285 delegates from the southeastern part of the country. And these are the people that we are expecting to, vote and to put rest to all of the arguments about who is going to emerge and who is not going to emerge as the flag bearer of the APC. You may say this is one of the keenly contested primary elections in the country in recent history. Now, one of the justifications that the northern governors, have given for their reason taking their decision is the fact that equity and fairness, interest of peace and all of that. But there are those who are arguing that if truly you are talking about equity and fairness, then you should zone this to the southeast. And if you're not zoning to the southeast, the other region the other region that have not, tested the office of the president is the northeastern part of the country where Ahmed Lawan comes from. So if you look at these arguments, isn't it just fair that perhaps the only man, who, it's kind of popular in this context is the Senate president? Perhaps the party should consider that. What's your thought?
So again, going back to where the strength lies and who influences the votes, you looked at the number of the delegates from the regions, and those regions are states, and those states are controlled by governors, and those delegates literally were nominated, selected, elected through the influence of the governors. Those numbers you see are going to play major roles in this process. If not for the new Electoral Act, like he rightly said, this poll would have got, maybe the president would have thrown his weight and, but with the law, like he said, the Electoral Act, has set rules that they must follow. I know the Electoral Act in Nigeria is one act and one law that, so there are some laws, like yesterday, so someone took a picture with the Nigerian flag behind him, and someone called me and said, why does he have a flag behind him? That he's not supposed to, he's not an executive. I'm like, how? He said, check the Nigerian flag Act. Now, so there are some acts that we don't even know about, that you don't really know what is in them. But the Electoral Act is one law that every politician and their associates and allies and their lawyers, know every single. So once you miss it at any point in time, you don't need a soothsayer to tell you that you've missed it. The politicians are the ones that are making sure that the Electoral Act is, every step of it is being put into use. So for if you look at the numbers, I believe that at the end of the day, the governors are going to play a major role in how, and I don't see how it favors Lawan. So I don't know why and how the party chairman came up with that. Probably you could help us with where did he get that from?
Well, perhaps you should help us with that. What's the idea failing this and driving the whole?
First thing is that when you talk about fairness, equity, justice, at what point do we start calculating the head of state or the president of Nigeria? From what point? Because Tafawa Balewa came from the northeast. Agi Ironsi and Azikiwe came from the southeast.
Well, the argument has always been that we're talking from 1999.
Yes. Okay, all right. Okay, so when you talk about 1999, but the PDP had their convention. The East had candidates. Bala Mohammed from the Northeast was a candidate. If you look at the votes they scored, the people in those regions did not justify the crown. 90 votes or 90-something votes for the Southeast, Anyim had 14. Bala Mohammed had very few votes.
20
votes. So that shows that those regions do not, by their actions, speak that, oh, we had been left out. Because that would have been a pointer that these regions truly feel alienated or feel that.
So where is the whole argument about marginalization coming
So
from?
those are imaginary discussions.
Are they really?
Yeah, really, because you can't cry more than bereaved. If they said East has 90 and they share the votes to Atiku, Wiki and the rest, and then Ayim had 14 votes, that speaks minority. That did not bother them so much. Otherwise, they would, even if Ayim was to fail, assuming that he was to fail, and they felt that we don't need to waste our vote, but they would have been able to register a point to say, look, there were 90 votes in the East. He had 85 votes. That means in the general elections, this is how the Igbos feel about it. From the Northeast area, this is what they have, and they only have 20. But if they had almost all, then Nigerians would have said, this reflects the feelings of these people in these two areas. What do we do? So I think that
all right.
Jumping to create an imaginary, an abstract worry. I do not think that.
Well, that's debatable. Actually, it's arguable. You know, when you talk to IPOB members, for instance, you know, you get to hear their points about what they feel.
That delegates represents people, so to speak, as if these people are representing their people. So they can be 90. But that 90 speaks for the southeast of that region.
All right.
So no matter how few the numbers are, they are on a representative capacity.
Okay, well,
so when they speak, what they say, you cannot say that is in little fractions, because collectively, people came to say, you go and represent us.
Okay, let's let Emmanuel also chip in.
So talking about this, let me say, so I'm from Southeast Nigeria. I understand that there's people from the Southeast here and sincerely want the presidency to come to Southeast just to ensure equity, you know, and fairness in the country. Now, there may have been people who ran under the PDP. So this also faults the whole delegate selection process, which I feel excludes people from participation. So let me digress a bit. A lot of young people has been saying, there has been this advocacy that young people should join political parties, young people should participate more, don't just have a PVC, get involved in a political party. Now I always ask, to what end? I mean, so you join a political party when you play absolutely no role in who emerges as the delegates or who emerges as the candidates of the political parties. So we all know how the governors select who these delegates are. So in a whole local government, the governor handpicks one person for the PDP.
So from the onset, the people did not really have a say.
So first of all, who are the people in the political party that are running to become the president of the country? Are they the people's choice? So I know in the Southeast, there is one candidate, the P2B candidate. I mean, all over social media, even though it's social media, I know why I laughed. All over social media, there is this frenzy, there is this excitement about the person of P2B. When P2B left the PDP, you know, you could feel a lot of disappointment from a lot of young, especially young Nigerians, you know. So had it been P2B stayed in the party, would he have been able to emerge, would he emerge the candidate of the party? Now, what will influence that? If young people are even in the political party with all the excitement, would they have played any role whatsoever in ensuring that P2B emerges? Would they have been able to get the votes? It still won't happen, because eventually it is the governor who, because of his interest, handpicks who the delegates are, and delegates will come and vote on who they wish to vote for.
Okay, so like let's interrogate why governors are this influential.
The governors from the Southeast, since it's the governors that say, which means that the governors from the Southeast are not desirous.
Okay, now...
Yeah, but it's politics and their interests.
Now, let's talk about why are these governors this powerful? Why are they so influential in determining the course of political parties? So I think that's where the root of the issue is. For instance, there are those who have said, well, it's like that because it is he who pays the piper that dictates the tune. Politically speaking, in terms of political culture in Nigeria, Nigerians are not known to be type that belong to political party just because they want to contribute to the growth of the party, even financially, for instance, and all of that. Mostly, people join political parties just for what they would get and all of that. So at the end of the day, resources, funding of political parties centers around a few persons, and at the end of the day, they call the shots. So how can we get young people to change their ideology? Because even when you find young people in political parties, they are not really there because they want to actually.
So what kind of young people and with what background? Are you talking about people that are working for people that are already elected? So why should I join a political party?
Exactly.
What role am I supposed to play if I join a political party? First of all, the political parties literally don't even raise funds from crowdsourcing from members, dues and stuff. When one or two, the governors of the states, in most cases, are the ones that fund the political party. So why, if I join a political party, of what use will it be if I cannot participate in electing who will bring out as a candidate of the party across board from state assembly to federal to president and to all of that? So the bigger problem is young people participating in political parties. I don't see the opportunities for them to actually influence the processes.
Okay, how can young people influence processes?
You see, from 1999, we had a faulty electoral system. We had a faulty selection system. And that faulty selection system created, in quotes, a God personality on the governors. It is this God personality that ignited the call for the amendment of the electoral law in order to make sure that these excesses were curbed. The governors. So now, the only thing is that this is the last lap of the illness. So that is why you find this situation. By the time we are coming to the next round of elections, you find a more submissive governors and governors who start respecting the people. The people, millions of Nigerians, 200 million Nigerians have been respecting 35 people or 36 people or 37 people. Now the Electoral Act has changed that. As soon as somebody buys a form, the governor doesn't have the right. If one says, oh, step down, I'm not stepping down, the governor knows that it has to go to the polls. So the governors now understand that this cannot happen the way it used to be. Then the people themselves are also beginning to understand, oh, we have powers. So if the governor says I should come down and I refuse, there's nothing he can do about it. So mutual respect is beginning to set in. So by the time the next election time is coming up, it will not be the way he's thinking. The governors are not perfect. Governors are only powerful because of the failed electoral law that we have.
So this is what takes
All right,
me
well, just before you go ahead, we understand the arrival of Atiku Bagudu, one of the chieftains of the APC, former chairman of the All Progressive Congress as well, Adams Oshomole, and the national chairman himself of the APC, Abdullahi Adamu, also arriving at the venue of the special convention. We'll continue to bring you updates as they unfold. Yeah, you can go ahead.
So yeah, you recall that before the Electoral Act was passed, that section, still on section 84, that talks about party primaries. There was this argument and conversation around the need to have direct primaries. you know. And that was the first, I think that was the first one that was sent to the president before he returned it and gave reasons why he cannot assent to the parties having direct primaries. Now, we understand the cost and the complications that direct primaries can have. But some of us were also advocating for direct primaries because at that point, first of all, it now gives every register, because there were rules on how they were going to have direct primaries. So you are not just, have you seen how they do party primaries in governorship elections? Like I remember in Anambra State when they did a governorship election, at the party primaries, the candidate of the APC at that time got over 150-something thousand votes as votes he got at the primaries from only APC registered members. When they now went to the general election, where all of those APC members and now the general public voted, he got just less than 50,000 votes. So it's all faulty about the numbers they parade as members of the political parties. Now, if there was going to be direct primaries, the idea was that every political party is supposed to have a database, verifiable database of members of the political parties, and every member of the political party will have a voting right to vote. So, what that means is that it becomes so difficult to buy up delegates. Look at what happened at the PDP primaries. It was a mess. It was a shame. Why? Because they were just 700 and something.
Let me tell you.
Because there's also the issue of cost.
And smaller parties. We understand all of that.
If you know that without direct primaries, you cannot get in direct primaries. So who is fooling who? The delegates are products of direct primaries. Okay?
Are they truly?
Yeah.
They are supposed to be.
No, I'm just telling you. These delegates, ward meetings and conferences were held to say elect.
We've had doctored lists where, in
some
places, the elections didn't even happen. It's just selection.
From the governors and the leaders.
When we are discussing in the open, we should discuss legally and
but we cannot deny the fact that
reality.
The
also discussing realistically.
There could be, because if somebody says mention who did one doctored list, you cannot say that there was a doctored list.
I mean, there are names, there are speculations.
But what I say is that let us take it to say, I'm saying that the fight and the cry over direct and indirect primaries, I don't see anything in it. Because
it doesn't make any difference.
Yeah, because it is by direct primaries that the delegates are elected who will be at indirect.
Supposedly.
State. Okay? And all what happens is that this is the first time. Now when people understand properly, people will go back to the wards and be friendly with the wards to make sure that when they want to run for governor, those people who are popular will be put forward to run for delegate election so that they can be the delegates to determine them.
All right.
So I'm saying that this act has just been amended, signed, and many people, both the party people and the principal actors, many of them are not used to it. I am used to it because I played a major role in the Electoral Act. So I knew that when we were doing it to cage, to put spanners in the legs of godfathers and
we'll get back to the discussions. For now, let's connect with our team out there at the Eagle Square right now. Our correspondent, Shafiu Suleiman, is standing by with updates. Hello, Shafiu. All right. So, all right, we'll get back to the field shortly. For now, let's just continue with the discussions here. Now, quite a number of things. The issue about monetization of the process is something that have generated a lot of conversations on social media. Everyone is talking. In fact, people are saying perhaps we should consider all becoming delegates, at some point because of the kind of money that is being shared and all of that. Do you consider that a threat to Nigeria's democracy?
It's a huge threat. So let me say this from the point of civil society advocacies and activities. Over the years, a lot of funding, billions in naira, probably in dollars, has been put into, internal political party democracy. But over the years, probably we didn't really take it seriously till now with this Electoral Act. And mind you, this Electoral Act is one of the best things supposedly that would happen to our election in 2023. Just save for this particular part of delegates, that's where I have an issue with. Now, in an election that typically you probably have 10,000 persons, and I'll take this from primaries of election to the general election and how money plays roles in general elections. In the party primaries, they are supposed to have 10,000, 12,000 delegates, cutting across people who are already in office, state assembly member, people who are already earning income. Now you have in the PDP primaries only one person representing a local government, basically handpicked by the governor with a funny kind of election, the direct election that he said they did. But which direct elections? When they don't even have a verifiable database of members of the political parties across the country. So who are the ones that are voting? So all these things are just simply governors handpicking who the delegates are. Now you come to the primaries and you have just 700 and something persons. So that's why we saw the level of madness and the kind of money that was being shared around the country. This is the same thing that happens in the general election. I tell a lot of young people who think that their votes won't count, who think that they don't have to go and vote. So it's funny when young people say the votes won't count. And I always ask, why do young people think votes won't count when politicians are buying votes? So why would someone buy something that won't count? Okay. Votes are counted, and that's why people are buying votes. Okay. So, but when election comes, and you see very few number of young people come out to vote, and mostly people in the rural communities, it becomes very easy for your politicians to even buy the votes of those few persons. But if you have a lot of young people participate in the general elections, it becomes impossible for them to, buy votes and win elections.
Okay, Mr. Precious, do you think that the situation would have been better if we had statutory delegates, for instance, participating in this?
We have to know where this thing comes from. This new law, this is the first time. So almost everybody is learning it. But first thing is, like I said, direct primaries produced indirect delegates. So now, those who thought it was business as before, people didn't believe that changes will occur, like business as before. These people are caught unawares because they didn't believe it.
So they probably knew
that the new election that is coming, you will see upsets. The kind of upsets you don't imagine. Because the new electoral law has made it that there is no incidence form. Accreditation. If you have only 50 people that are accredited, because the accreditation has centered and is done biometrically, which means you can only rig within 50. You cannot have a result where somebody scored 1 vote and along the road you put 2,000 in front of it. That used to be. So you don't have that again. So what is going to happen is that the whole thing has to do with the human beings. Because the difference between the authentication of the card reader and what we use at the ATM is that the ATM is authenticated by PIN. The card reader is authenticated by human biology, human fingers. And so Nigerians are still behaving as if they are going to write the results. So they were going
the reality hasn't dawned on.
No, it will dawn on the day of the elections.
Well, perhaps you are probably right because, sometimes you have the knowledge of what the law is, but you do not necessarily know how it's going to play out or how it's going to be.
Do Nigerians even know what the law is saying right now?
Yeah, I'm talking about the politicians.
That's why I said that they're going to cut off there. Let me tell you, when I ran for governorship, if you may recall, the governorship of Rivers State was not concluded. By 12 noon, INEC stopped the elections. Between 12 and 1 o'clock. So we can't go forward. And that election was never completed. That election was never completed. Okay. So, and I saw the flaws, and it took me time to realize that our electoral system is so flawed that can never produce a good election.
All right.
And some of us started working on it until we got to the point where we are.
All right. Well, we'll now go back to the field and connect with our correspondent, Shafiu Suleiman, who is there standing by at the Eagle Square venue of the APC presidential primaries. Shafiu, can you take us through what's happening there? Give us a feel of what the update is like.
Yes, so good, Ayuba. The Eagle Square, that is venue for the APC convention, has come alive. Come alive in the sense that a number of delegates from across states in the country, including the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, have already arrived, the venue and carefully seated in their respective pavilion. Officials and other organizing officers are also, going around to see for themselves, how the conduct is going on. Virtually, the situation here is calm, so to speak, because, things are going on as expected. The delegates are conducting themselves, in a good manner, and of course in a high spirit. We've spoken to some of them earlier on during their arrival. We've spoken to the delegates from Lagos State who told us that they found the accreditation process very easy. They also had the very best in terms of engaging the protocols to arrive at the venue. Also, they told us that in high spirits. In fact, they are hopeful that the exercise is going to be a hitch-free exercise, and they're also hopeful of victory. So the atmosphere here is getting charged with the arrival.
Okay, earlier on we saw a video of some of the delegates at the International Conference Center where the verification was taking place, and it appears that there was a bit of an uproar there. Any information on why that happened?
Well, the accreditation is taking place at the ICC, that is the International Conference Center, and we're here at the venue of the exercise talking about Eagle Square. So we are not actually in touch with what is happening with regards to the conduct of the accreditation. But what we are sure of is the fact that the delegates that arrive here in good spirit, and of course upbeat about the conduct of the exercise. I have one of the delegates very close to me here, so let's get to hear their experience with regards to the processes they went through. So tell us how you've gone through the accreditation process and of course your arrival at the venue here.
Well, actually, as you can see, the accreditation process has commenced as early as possible in the morning. And most of the delegates, we can say about 70 to 80% of the delegates across the country have started to arrive at the venue of this special convention, that is Eagle Square, Abuja. So the accreditation process is simple as that. You know how the number of the accredited delegates come state by state. Like in my state, Zamfara, we have 42 delegates. We have 14 local government. That 3 delegates, if you calculate it to 14, it will make you 42 delegates.
All right.
To screen the delegates right from the conference center and bring them to the venue successfully.
Okay, so but we learned that there was an uproar along the line during the accreditation. How we were involved in that, or what exactly happened?
What?
That there was some hiccups, some challenges in the process of accreditation.
There's no hitch up. The exercise is going hitch free. So as you publicity committee is not crowded places. Every member of the delegates and every member of the official committee, especially the journalists, are conducting their assignment without any hitch. As you can see, they are moving there to get the materials they need in order to report live event, live activities that is taking place right from the venue of the Ezekiel Square. So if you can see state by state, look at the pavilion of each state by state. Most of the delegates have been seated. So it means they were secured successfully and they were brought to the venue and they were seated waiting for the arrival of Mr. President and other activities lined up for the commencement of the program.
Thank you very much for talking to us. So this is one of the delegates from Zamfara State telling us, narrating his experience and his team with regards to the conduct of the accreditation. Of course, also what they met here on ground at the Eagle Square.
Okay,
so far so good. Just like I said, a number of states have already arrived. Yeah.
All right. So in terms of the aspirants and other party chieftains, can you highlight some of the persons that have arrived at the venue so far?
Well, I haven't seen any of the aspirants so far, but I've seen a number of dignitaries, APC chieftains, so to speak. I've also seen some governors like Imo State Governor Hopos Dodima. I've seen also the Minister of Information and Communication, Lai Mohammed. I've seen also the chairman, Progressive Governors Forum, talking about the governor of Kebbi State, alongside some of his colleagues, going around, the pavilions and going around some of the tents here to find out what is going on. So officials have been coming here and going, and perhaps trying to understand, how the process is going on, and trying to ensure that it is a history exercise.
All right, give us a hint. Are there words on the street as to, the little, crisis that seem to be going on within the APC right now? Perhaps you may have engaged with one or two delegates that have given you maybe off-the-record information.
Yes, largely, most of this, the crisis we are talking about is being fueled, so to speak, by the media. You have most of this, back and forth counter claims and allegations of all sorts, virtually from the media. But here, the delegates told us that they have no problem. They are confident, perhaps, that the exercise is going to be a history exercise.
Do they have a consensus?
Are also upbeat
is
that the
there
party
a consensus
will create
candidate?
a level playing ground.
Is there a consensus candidate right now?
The issue of consensus build-up has been ongoing. But so far, there hasn't been conclusion to that regard. So there has been a lot of consultations, meeting, and so on and so forth to arrive at the consensus. But it appears that we're likely going to see an open contest here. Despite all of that, we know that it hasn't been a successful outing so far, even with the involvement of President Muhammadu Buhari, who has interfaced with the stakeholders, including the governors, yet they are yet to arrive at a consensus. Perhaps we are likely going to see the delegates, coming to decide who apply the flag of the party. They are already here, seated carefully and waiting for the time to come out and cast their votes.
Okay, we also understand that there seems to be some kind of restriction in terms of accreditation for members of the press. Have you experienced any of that sort of restriction?
Yes, looking at the arrangement this time around, really one will say that it is a very Herculean task. It's a very tedious process. The press generally, the media, have been finding it difficult to access this venue. Very few, so to speak, who have had the accreditation, and those of us who have been here early enough that are visible here. A number of journalists are actually outside because they cannot access the venue because they don't have, the accreditation. I also understand that the accreditation committee perhaps is just looking at or dusting the the previous accreditation that was done during the APC primaries, that's what they're actually using at the moment. But I've seen quite a number of journalists also hanging, new accreditations, tags with them. So I don't know precisely what is happening, but generally it has been a very tedious process here. The arrangement is very tight, even security-wise. You can realize that unlike what happened during the previous convention, you hardly find anybody who has nothing to do with this venue here at the moment. Remember the previous process, it was almost hijacked by thugs and what have you. But today, you can hardly find anybody who is not responsible here within the vicinity.
All right, we also understand, just maybe you can clarify that, whether it's true or not, that there are some delegates who have not been allowed entry, even though they are verified.
Okay, can you please say that again?
Okay, so we are hearing that, and we want you to, I will want you to clarify that, whether it's true or not, that there are certain delegates and supporters that have been denied access into the Eagle Square.
Well, so far there wasn't any confirmation to that. I haven't had anyone complaining. We were at the gate where the delegates are arriving, and there wasn't any complaint with regards to delegates being denied access. But just like I told you, actually there is a very strict compliance, so to speak, in terms of getting people into the venue. Perhaps those that have been complaining are people who have nothing to do with the venue, but trying to create, unnecessary apprehension so that they can get attention. But I haven't heard anything from the delegates so far that there has been blockade or, denying some people access to the venue.
So as we speak, has the primary been declared open yet? Because according to the schedule of, events for the primaries, by now we're expecting, at least a national address, an address by the national chairman of the party.
Yes, you are right. Going by the schedule of the event, it started slightly behind schedule, so to speak. Even the accreditation exercise took place around 11, 12 thereabout. Initially it was said to be scheduled for 10 o'clock and all of that. And even the delegates started arriving here very late, around 1:30 thereabout. So you can see that the organizers haven't kept, to the schedule as it is. But so far, the place here is quiet. No one has come out to address anyone. But then activities are going on behind the scene. Delegates are making their way into the venue, sitting at their respective pavilions. Other activities are also taking place. But in terms of communication, no one is actually coming out to say, XYZ with regards to the happenings here or the conduct of the convention. We are still awaiting announcements from the officials and, of course, organizers of the event.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Shafiu Suleiman, our correspondent there at the Eagle Square. We will link up back to you later for more updates as they unfold. Well, we're back into the studio. I have in the studio Emmanuel Njoku, he is Program Manager, Code, and also Precious Ekima, a member of the All Progressives Congress. Well, you heard it all. From what it appears, there's no hitches and there's nothing to be worried about. But though internally, it appears that there's so much effort to conceal a lot of things, a lot of secrecy right now, from the look of things. Because, from the little pieces of information that we have been able to get, it doesn't look like all is well, from, from the party. So maybe, Mr. Precious, what's this effort to, kind of conceal a whole lot?
No, I don't see anything that is wrong. Storms and bombs in politics. It's like storms in the ocean and bombs in the air. That does not in any way mean that because you had bombs while flying from Lagos to Abuja, you won't get Abuja. You get Abuja safe. Okay? So I think that there is nothing strange, there is nothing new. It's a human endeavor. And like I said to you people,
so at the end of the day, you are sure that
yes, because
we would see a process that will be free of implosion.
Yeah, because
you know, when you hear information coming from members of the NWC saying that we've not been carried along, decisions have been made unilaterally. In fact, a couple of weeks ago, vice chairman of the APC were fingering the national chairman of being, you know, draconian in terms of not consulting with members of the NWC and all of that. So,
you know that human beings resist change. These people are not yet properly in terms that what they used to do yesterday, they can't do it. And so sometimes they tend to forget that we're in a new era. We're in a new era where the voice of the poorest man counts. That is what the Electoral Act has done. So when NWC says we have not heard, it's because they are sure that what the chairman is saying is mere suggestive. Unlike yesterday.
Do you think that this will have an implication on his managing the political party even after this process? Let's assume everything goes well, you know, with the whole process in terms of the relationship between the governors of the party and the national chairman.
Well, I don't see much of a difference that will occur. The chairman probably now understands, oh, I can't do it this way. What we used to do yesterday is not the same.
You do not see a frosty relationship?
No, I don't think so. The governor, you already heard some governors say, oh, we back the chairman. So I don't think so. They're all guilty of this. So I don't think that is something
well,
to
Emmanuel,
worry about.
let's talk about your projections, you know, ahead of this, just quickly before we round up this segment.
So for me, what's been happening for me all day yesterday is just politicians being politicians playing politics. You know, and it's expected because you see what is happening today is very important for elections. Will not just happen by February or March 2023 general elections. The elections has already started, and this is a very key part of the election in itself. So whatever they do here today, whatever the outcome of what they're going to do here today, will determine if they are going to win at the general elections or if they are going to lose at the general elections. Whatever they do here today will determine if this political party, the first opposition party that we've seen in Nigeria taking power from a ruling party in 2015. So whatever they do here today is going to determine if they are going to keep the power in APC or if they are going to lose the power. Is going to determine if the party is going to break into pieces and fall like a pack of cards or if the party will stay together. So they have a lot of work and so much task ahead of them. And for me, I feel what actually even, you know, took us to where we are right now as the APC whole scene is long before now, the president Buhari had already said that he had a candidate, a special candidate, but that he won't mention his name, that if he mentions his name, that he probably will get killed.
And he has still not mentioned
and we're
his
waiting
name
his few minutes to, I heard that the president is supposed to be here by 4 or 5 or so to declare this event open, but look at your reporter saying he's not there yet, and he still has not said who he is. But so a lot of people were buying the forms, hoping because of their relationship probably with the president or with people near the president that eventually they will be picked as the president's preferred candidate. But all of that is not happening. It's not putting tension on the party. So the hope on the survival of this political party, APC, all lies on whatever the outcome of this outing today.
Well, on a final note, Mr. Precious, I want you to, can the APC beat the PDP or any other political party in 2023 election, regardless of whoever emerges the flag bearer of the APC? Sure,
because the considerations, and I'm not trying to say that ethnic consideration doesn't play a role, but it will play probably about 5–10%. What is wrong? Why the hunger does not understand north and south.
Well, we always say that,
So,
but each time it comes to the politics, we always key into key in some of these considerations and all that.
In 1993, they voted for Biola against Tofa. In 1999, they voted for Obasanjo. So whether they produce a Southerner, East, South, or whatever, the people will vote the way that they want to vote.
All right. Well, thank you so much. We'll have to let you go. Thank you so much for joining us on this live broadcast. We appreciate your coming.
Thank you.
Yeah. We've been speaking with Emmanuel Njoku, Program Manager, Code, and also Precious Ekima, a member of the APC. Now, we will take a short break, and then when we come back, the program will continue. Please stay with us.